So, some of you may remember that the point of my drash today was not to talk about gender, was not to talk about synagogues issuing bonds. It wasn't even to talk about the great work of microloans in the area of social justice. My goal is to better understand authentic Judaism. I used to think authentic Judaism was about holding on to the both. I was moved by the words of Abraham Joshua Heschel in his book, God in Search of Man. Jewish thinking and living can only be adequately understood in terms of a dialectic pattern containing opposite or contrasted polarities. In this quote, Heschel describes Judaism as constantly holding on to diametrically opposed ideas. He goes on afterwards to list law and lore, intention and action, consistency and spontaneity, and many other dichotomies. This grappling with tension was not only what inspired me to be a part of the Jewish endeavor, but it was specifically what drew me to conservative Judaism. Yet, as I approach the end of rabbinical school, I feel an insufficiency in Heschel's words. His dichotomies are not enough for me. This teaching, which rang so true for me because it was the way I experienced life. How often were my brain and my heart telling me opposite truths that still had to remain true, even though they were opposite? How often was I compelled by opposite readings of the same text? Still, as I approached the issue of usury, I realized what's been bugging me. 2 poles are simply not enough. This verse is telling us many different messages at the same time, not just 2. This verse does not only mean that women were cut off from this means of economic autonomy. It does not only mean that we are responsible to the poor among us. It does not only mean that we must contend with this halachic principle while still working in the economy of today. And I could have gone on to discuss even more perspectives on this pasuk than the 3 I've chosen. What did it mean for the slaves of Egypt to suddenly have access to these small loans? How did this law relate to other laws of the ancient Near East? What does the Midrash say about this pasuk? All of these are further perspectives with which to look at our pasuk. The list could go on forever. And life, too, happens on many levels at the same time. Every interaction we have with another is enormously complex. On one level, we are sharing ourselves. On another, we are hearing the other. On still another, we're acting out a relationship we never had a chance to resolve. On still another, we're learning about relationships in general. That list, too, could go on forever. Living an authentic Jewish life then gives us a clue as to how to live an authentic life. Usury here tells us it is our job to be reflective. We are most authentic when we are able to clearly understand what our perspective is, how that perspective helps us, and how that perspective blinds us to other possibilities. The halachic perspective helps us make an honest attempt at living up to our side of the covenant, but it can make it easy to miss the plight of the individual. The gendered perspective of this law helps us see how far we miss the mark from equality, which helps us to recognize our shortcomings and strive towards a better reality. But focusing on these shortcomings can leave us feeling estranged from our Jewish tradition. The personal meaning perspective can leave us uplifted and connected with the real needs of people, but it can miss the systemic approach necessary for creating any lasting community. In life, we are challenged in the same way. If we look at a situation from only one point of view, we miss a chance to grow. On the flip side, if we do not allow ourselves to focus on a single perspective, we will get lost and have no grounding. Lastly, I return to the question I began with. What does it mean to live Judaism authentically? For me, it means not letting go of anything. Each perspective adds to our layered and deep understanding of life, Judaism, and God. Living Judaism authentically means holding on to halakha, personal meaning, to a God that is transcendent and eminent, to a focus on community while still focusing on the needs of the individual, to pushing each other while still remaining supportive. Authentic Judaism means a life of reflection rooted in tradition, grounded in the world, constantly evolving, yet still remaining the same. I conclude with a wish for all of us. Every year, when Parshat Mishpatim comes up, and we each ask ourselves, am I closing myself off to any perspectives? Or conversely, am I losing myself in a sea of unending perspectives? Am I living my Judaism and my life authentically? Thank you very much.